What's up, guys? It's Josh back with SobWoD. Good to see you guys again, and glad you're back. I want to keep the video a little short today because it's pretty heavy stuff, and y'all probably have a lot to discuss. So we're trying to keep it pretty short. One thing, if you guys haven't yet, if you would fill out the survey on the website if you've been attending, or even if it's your first time attending. It's just helping me out with seeing who's coming and kind of getting some feedback from you guys, and give me some contact info, because I like to blog sometimes and send you guys some stuff throughout the week. So if y'all could do that, that'd be awesome. This is class 8, and I titled it Feel Right, Do Right. I actually have the sheet with me this time, and I'm just gonna run through kind of the thought behind it. And you know, as an addict, I have spent a lot of time, I think it's kind of part of our nature, and I think it's a human thing too, but more so ourselves, where we have this feeling that, or this idea that we're supposed to feel a certain way before we're willing to take action. And trying to be led by feelings, or trying to control my feelings in order to direct my actions, has pretty much been an essential problem throughout my entire life. And I've always battled with, well, how's it supposed to be, you know? Should I wait until I feel a certain way to do something, or should I find a way to kind of conjure up those feelings before I act, or is that not the right way, you know? And so I've done a lot of research and read a lot of people's opinions on it, and pretty much everybody who is the way that I would like to be says it's the reverse. So I have a couple things on the sheet, but you know, it's the idea of like, I'll give if I feel generous rather than giving because it needs to be done, you know, or I'll smile when I'm happy rather than just smiling just out of meeting another human being. Like, it's a beautiful thing, you know, but if I'm not feeling it, I'm not gonna take that action. Or what's another one? Oh yeah, that's a big one. Not working or not doing something unless I feel motivated, you know. It's a lot easier to be led by our emotions. It's a lot easier to feel something and then do it out of like a compulsion than it is to do it when we're not feeling it. But everything in recovery has taught me that that's not the correct order. And so we have it written down here, and I've identified this as a trap. This idea is the trap of the world, is the trap of psychology, psychiatry, all that kind of stuff is, you know, how are you feeling, or how can we change the way you're feeling? And what we do is, a lot of times, you know, if you've ever been depressed, it's like, you know, you should get out, you know, you should go exercise, you know, you should go hang out with people, but that's not what you feel like doing. If you could get yourself to do it, you might feel a little better, and you've probably had some instances where that's true, but it's not what we feel like doing. The problem with following our feelings and only doing what feels good is we get in a situation where we don't always feel good. And so we start doing some selfish things to try to feel better before we're willing to do the things that would actually make us feel better. And so I have it written down in this order: feelings, actions, and identity. And that's the life that most of us are used to. So what happens is, I have these feelings, you know, and here I feel, you know, anxious, irritable, and discontent. Well, I don't want to feel that way. So I take actions that I think will help alleviate those symptoms or help solve that problem. So in a recovery sense, you know, I feel shitty, so I'm gonna use something that makes me feel better. Once it makes me feel better, then I'll act. You know, a lot of us started off using just to be normal. We use just to fit in, or just to get something done that needed to get done. But what happens is all the consequences and the side effects of that. You know, we start doing some other actions, whether we're in control or out of control, that lead us to start to change our opinion of ourselves. And so at some point it's like, man, I've done some shitty stuff. You know, I cheated on my girlfriend, I stole some stuff. All this stuff was like out of trying to feel better, but it actually ended up making us pretty shitty human beings. And so then we start identifying with those actions that we've taken, and we start to consider ourselves to be shitty human beings. What recovery taught me was the flip, you know, and it's when I understood that what had happened and started to change the way I thought about that. It changed to understanding that I am an addict, I am an alcoholic, and what that disease entails is some of the things that I've done. You know, it was like, so I had this new identity. All right, I understand that what I did was wrong, and that it can't continue. But at the same time, like, it's not because I'm a piece of shit. It's because I'm ill. You know, I'm spiritually ill, and some of us are physically ill as well. You know, so understanding that, that's a starting point. That's kind of like step one, and then realizing there's some actions I can take to deal with this treatable disease. It's a treatable disease. It's not curable, but it's treatable. And so I start taking those actions out of response to understanding my identity. You know, for me, it's the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, or the 12 steps, you know, or like just going to meetings and meditating and being honest with myself and all those kind of things that I never did before. Start taking those actions, and little by little over time, I stop feeling anxious, irritable, and discontent. And it's just this complete reverse process. And it's something that we have to be on the lookout for all the time. You know, there's a lot of times I don't feel like doing stuff, but I know that if I do the action, it's like, think about working out, because that's what we're about to talk about. A lot of times we get to the gym and don't feel like it today. And then when we finish, we always feel so much better that we did it, you know. If we can start that habit, if we can make that a habit, your life will change. That's the bottom line. So I want you guys to take a second and discuss how this process, how you've noticed this process in your own recovery or in your own addiction, and how that affected you, and if that's the way you do things now, or if there are some places where you could start doing that a little bit more. I'm not actually going to restart the video, so I'm just going to pause for a second, and you guys pause, discuss, and then we'll come back. So cool. Hopefully you guys had a good discussion on that. Now we're going to relate it a little bit to fitness. So a lot of times when I'm trying to teach somebody to move better, you know, they come in with some pretty bad habits. And so the discussion that we have a lot of times is that, you know, I'm telling them they're bent over trying to pick up a barbell, and I'm trying to get them to raise their butt and arch their back and put the load in the hamstrings, but they want to slide on the toes and put everything in the knees and do what feels right. And so what I try to do with them is to help them identify the uncomfortability of the correct position as what we're looking for. We're actually looking for the discomfort. When you feel that discomfort, that's when you know you're there. Now your coach is going to look over you and make sure that you're feeling discomfort in a correct way. It's not a pain thing, but it's just a new feeling, or it can be a new feeling. And so just like with any kind of adaptation, it starts off where I have to slow my guys down and tell them you're looking for that feeling of uncomfortability, because that means you're changing the way you're doing it, all right? So that uncomfortableness is actually the identification of the correct movement. And you know, when we first started maybe going to groups, or we first started, or maybe your first time here, or you first started kind of being honest with yourself, like that shit is uncomfortable, but it's the right thing. And if you look at it this way, it should be uncomfortable because it's not the way you usually do it. And if the way you usually do it is not the right way, then that uncomfortableness is what we're looking for. But what happens? I'm sure you've had something in your life that was uncomfortable when you first started doing it. It takes tremendous amount of effort. It sucks. It's like you don't want to do it. It goes against everything you've ever done in your life. But you just do it. And then you just do it again. And then you just do it again. And eventually, it starts to feel comfortable, right? It starts to feel okay. It doesn't take as much effort. It doesn't take as much focus. You just start to do it that way. Then, in the long term, what eventually happens is the old way you used to do it is actually the way that feels uncomfortable. And now you can avoid that uncomfortability of the old way you used to do it in exchange for the new and better and improved way. I'll give you another quick example. You know, we talk about posture a lot. So I talk to my guys about sitting up straight and keeping that back tight. You know, when we first start, if you would sit like this, it's gonna feel really uncomfortable. It's not natural if you haven't been doing it that way. So if you try to change your posture, it's miserable because every time, like every 3 seconds, you're like, shit, I'm doing it again. You have to keep thinking about it. But as you loosen up, as you get stronger in the back, as you pay attention to it more and more, it becomes second nature, right? And in the long term, it's gonna benefit you from not having those rounded shoulders. It's gonna prevent injuries in the long run. It's going to help your circulation, all those kind of things. So it's worth it. It's just going to be uncomfortable for a little while. So today's workout, you get an example, or you get an opportunity to try it out. So deadlifts, push-ups. It might not be the way you're used to doing it. Deadlifts, just picking up something off the ground. Your coach might help you do it a way that you're not familiar with, but keep in mind what we've been talking about and how doing the uncomfortable thing, if it's the right thing, is eventually going to be okay. It's going to be comfortable, and it's going to lead you to greater and greater success. And for the sobriety WOD today, I just want you to think about what's one habit or action that you've changed in recovery that you had this experience with where you really had to focus on it, like you really had to try. You had to set alarms and reminders and shit, and you had to have a sponsor to call you all the time or whatever it was, but now it's just part of your life, and it's just something you do. So, you guys have a good workout, and we'll see you back next week.